Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this value added program of soft skills. Today, we are going to talk on interpersonal skills. Man being a social animal, he works, he lives, and he spends time with other human beings. We cannot just imagine a day when we are all alone at one place, maybe in our house, and with nobody to talk to. No mobile, no communication, no person, nothing. That's the biggest punishment that man can get. And when you are interacting with others, obviously the skill of interpersonality definitely creeps in too. When we work in teams, either at home or in the school or at college or maybe in the workplace, the interpersonal skills definitely help us to live better, work better, produce better, and be successful. Let's see as to what these interpersonal skills are. Interpersonal skills starts with assertiveness, communication both non-verbal and verbal, with giving emphasis to listening skills and negotiating skills, problem solving skills and decision making skills together in teams. So interpersonal skills are very important to be developed whenever we are working with teams. Communication skills is the most important skill that needs to be concentrated on while talking about the development of interpersonal skills. In fact, communication skills, as we know, covers the verbal communication and the non-verbal communication. The verbal communication is what we say and how we say, which is essentially concerned with the speaking skills. The speaking skills could be better only if we have a trained ear for listening skills. That is how we interpret both verbal and non-verbal messages sent by others. So the first skill that comes is listening skill. Then comes the verbal skill of speaking along with the non-verbal skills of body language, tone, eye contact, distancing, voicing, pitching, and so on and so forth. Verbal, both listening as well as speaking, along with non-verbal communication skills are very important to have the proper interpersonal communication. Along with this, the other interesting phenomena that we need to bear in mind while interacting with others is to have a sort of emotional intelligence. This is a buzzword in the modern era, and emotional intelligence is nothing but to understand and manage our own emotions first and then others' emotions also. Once we are managing our emotions as well as others' emotions, then it becomes easier for us to work in teams, which is the ability to work with others in groups and teams, both in the formal as well as the informal levels. Once we are working with teams, automatically the skills of negotiation, that is talking to others, persuasion, maybe influencing skills also act. These are nothing but the working with others to find a mutually agreeable, yani win-win situation, या win-win outcome. This may be considered a subset of communication, but it is often treated separately. Along with this, we also have conflict resolution and mediation as an important aspect of interpersonal communication. This simply means that working with others to resolve the interpersonal conflicts and disagreements in a very positive way, in a very healthy manner, without straining our relationships, which again may be considered as a subject of communication, but conflict resolution and mediation should be there as an important element in the interpersonal communication. Otherwise, we tend to strain our relationships with others. Following conflict resolution, we have problem solving and decision making also, which is nothing but working with others to identify, define, and solve problems. And it makes which include the making of decisions about the best course of action. The importance of interpersonal skills would be interpersonal skills matter because none of us live in a bubble. We don't live in the watertight compartments, but on the contrary, we tend to live with group along with others, both at home and at workplace. In the course of our lives, we have to communicate with and interact with other people on a daily, if not hourly basis, and sometimes more often. Good interpersonal skills actually oil the wheels of these interactions. making them smoother and pleasanter for all those who are involved into it. They allow us to build better and longer lasting relationships both at home as well as at work. Don't you think? So, the interpersonal skills at home, if you look at, even at home, when we are living with our own people, our own relatives, still good interpersonal skills help us to communicate more effectively with the family as well as friends. This is likely to be particularly important with your partner. Now, this partner can be a room partner in a hotel, room partner in a hostel, room partner in a shared room, or maybe your own brother, sister, parents, or cousins at home. For example, being able to give and receive feedback effectively with your partner can help to solve problems between you before they become bigger issues and unmanageable ones. Similarly, interpersonal skills also are very effective to be implemented at workplace. You may not like to think about it in these terms, but you almost certainly spend more time with your colleagues at workplace rather than at home. At work, you are required to communicate with and interact with a wide range of people, from suppliers and customers through to your immediate colleagues, colleagues further afield, your team, your manager, and so on and so forth. Your ability to do so effectively can make the difference between a successful working life and one spent wondering what went wrong later. So, developing your interpersonal skills are the foundation for good working and social relationships, and also for developing many other areas of skill. It is therefore worth spending time developing good interpersonal skills. Number one in the interpersonal skill is identify areas for improvement. The first step towards improving is to develop your knowledge about yourself and your weaknesses. What your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. That at least we should know in the first place. You may already have a good idea of areas that you need to develop. However, it is worth seeking feedback from others very positively because it is easy to develop blind spots about yourself. You might also find it useful to do your interpersonal skills self-assessment. Dear students, many self-assessment programs are available or questionnaires are available online freely. You can click on any of the self-assessment questionnaire and just try out as to what your strong points are and what your weak points are in a very objective way and try to improve on the weaker points. The second point in developing the interpersonal skills is to focus on your basic communication skills. Communication is more than the words that come out of your mouth. We already know that non-verbal communication skills play a very important role whenever you are using the verbal communication skills as well. Some would even go so far as to suggest that there is a reason why you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen first, talk next, always. And that you should therefore listen twice as much as you talk. Listening is very definitely not the same as hearing. Perhaps one of the most important things you can do for anyone else is to take the time to listen carefully to what others are talking to you, others are saying you, considering both their verbal and non-verbal communication. Using techniques like questioning and reflection demonstrates that you are both listening as well as interested. The third aspect of interpersonal communication skills is to improve your more advanced communication skills. Once you are confident in your basic listening and verbal and non-verbal communication, you can move on to more advanced areas around communication, such as becoming more effective in how you speak and understanding why you may be having communication problems, understanding the barriers, and so on. The barriers in communication could be understanding more about the possible barriers, could be maybe the personal problems, the physical barriers, the emotional barriers, expectations and prejudices, and so on. The physical barriers could be being unable to see or hear the speaker properly, or language difficulties. The emotional barriers, such as not wanting to hear what is being said or engage with other topics, and expectations and prejudices that affect the people what they hear and see, should be avoided. Once you have done that, we go into the fourth step of developing the interpersonal skills, like look inwards. Now, this looking inwards is a must. Interpersonal skills may be about how you relate to others, but they start from always with you. Many will be improved dramatically if you work on your personal skills first. For example, people are much more likely to be drawn to you if you can maintain a positive attitude. A positive attitude also translates into improved self confidence. You are also less likely to be able to communicate effectively if you are very stressed about something. It is therefore important to learn to recognize, manage, and reduce the stress in yourself and others. Being able to remain assertive without becoming either passive or aggressive is also very important to be effectively communicating to others. So, look within you as to what your problems are, which should be worked about, which should be resolved, which should be resolved, which should be identified and addressed to, rather than first of all looking at others. Emotional intelligence is the next interesting area in interpersonal communication. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand your own and others' emotions and their effect on behavior and attitudes. It is therefore perhaps best considered as both personal as well as interpersonal in its nature, but there is no doubt that improving your own emotional intelligence will help in all areas of interpersonal skills. Daniel Goleman, who actually is the propagator of emotional intelligence and the author of a number of books on emotional intelligence, identified 5 key areas, 3 of which are personal and 2 of which are interpersonal. The personal skills are how we manage ourselves, our self-awareness, self-regulation, and motivation. You should be aware of what your pluses and minuses are, strengths and weaknesses are, and you should regulate and modify your work upon your negatives and improve your positives, and then get your motivation. Self motivated you should be. Motivation should be from within. So in other words, the first step towards understanding and managing the emotions of others is to be able to understand and manage first of all your own emotion, including understanding what motivates us. Yes or no? After these 3 personal skills, we have something like the social skills. The social skills are how we handle relationships with others, our empathy and social skills. These mean understanding and feeling for others. Empathy is to understand others. Empathizing on others, to understand others, to put your legs into the shoes of others and trying to understand them, and then being able to interact with them effectively. So empathy and social skills will become the interpersonal skills for us. The 6th area of interpersonal skills is use and practice your interpersonal skills in particular situations. Now this is the application. Once you have understood your personal and interpersonal skills, then there are a number of situations in which you need to use these interpersonal skills. Consciously putting yourself in those positions and practicing your skills, then reflecting on the outcomes will definitely help you to improve. Say for example number 1 is interpersonal skills are essential when working in groups. So group work is also a common situation, both at home and at work, giving you plenty of opportunity to work on your skills. It may be helpful to understand more about group dynamics and ways of working, as these can affect how both you and others behave. So work in small groups at home as well as at work, and try to apply your interpersonal skills and objectively analyze it, whether you are getting the required outcome or not. If your required outcome is there, come on, pat at your back and go ahead. If not, think about it as to what is responsible for not materializing it and improve on that. Every time doing such work will definitely improvise your interpersonal skills. As a second example, interpersonal skills may also be particularly helpful if you have to negotiate, persuade, and influence others. Effective negotiations, that is, where you are seeking a win-win outcome rather than win-lose, will pave the way to mutual respect, trust, and lasting interpersonal relations. Only by looking for a solution that works for both parties rather than seeking to win at all costs can you establish a good relationship that will enable you to work together over and over again. Definitely no. So always strive for win-win outcome. You also should win. The other person also should win. It cannot be win-lose, or Even worse, lose-win. So think about it. As a third example, I would suggest resolving and mediating in conflict scenarios can be a real test to develop the interpersonal relationships and skills. Sometimes negotiation and persuasion are not enough to avoid conflict. When this happens, you need strong conflict resolution and potentially even mediational skills. Conflict can arise from poorly handled interpersonal communications and may be addressed simply by listening carefully at both sides and demonstrating that you have done so. So, listening is number one. Listen to them carefully and then put your words. Finding a win-win situation is similarly very important here because it shows that you respect both sides. These skills may be thought of as advanced communication skills. However, if you are often required to manage such situations, some specialist training also can be helpful to you. So work on this. As a fourth example, I would say finally, problem solving and decision making are usually better when they involve more than one person. Problem solving and decision making are always the key life skills. While both can be done alone, they are often better for the involvement of more people. Practice this, and this means that they also frequently involve interpersonal elements. And there is no doubt that better interpersonal skills help with both. Seventh interpersonal skill that is to be reflected upon and developed upon is reflect on your own experience and improve every day. The final element in developing and improving your interpersonal skills is to develop the habit of self-reflection. Taking time to think about conversations and interpersonal interactions will enable you to learn from your mistakes and successes and continue to develop. You might, for example, find it helpful to keep a diary and maybe a journal, learning journal, and write in it each week. Working in teams always happens with the interpersonal skills, as we know. A cooperative process, team working, is that allows ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results. A process among partners, co-workers who share mutual goals and work together to achieve the goals is what is called as team working. The characteristics of the effective team could be the team must have a clear goal, it must have results driven structure, it also must have competent team members, and it must have unified commitment. The team must have a collaborative climate. It must also have high standards that are understood by all the team members. The team must receive external support and encouragement. It also must have principled leadership. All these are taken from the book that is quoted in the slide. So stage one for having the effective team is number one, forming. You form the team first. You select your team members who would be in accordance with your thought process and form them. Once you have formed them, brainstorm them. Introduce as to what exactly you expect from that team. And then norming, and then performing. Every effective team goes through all these four life cycle stages: forming, storming, norming, and performing. So the aspects of team processing is decision making and problem solving. What process does the group use to make the decisions? Is the process agreed upon by everyone? Does anyone make a decision and carry it out without agreement from the others? Is there evidence of a majority pushing a decision? Are minority opinions heard in the team? Does the group take time to understand the problem? Is the problem well articulated first of all? Can the group move to form problem identification, identifying possible solutions to select solutions and to implement? Are some of the questions that you have to think when you are forming the group and acting with the group. The attitudes of effective teamwork will be appreciations given from time to time. Respect your team members. Always have mutual trust on each other. Openness to feedback is a must. Reflection on group processes and interest in improving should be a common fact among all. Always have a shared vision. Never work alone. Always share whichever idea, smallest to the small idea that clicks you, smallest to the small solution that clicks any person, should be shared and should be heard and should be implemented. Because for effective teamwork and interpersonal competency, You have to work together, and it is the ability to manage one's emotions and conflict with others while contributing towards a common goal. Remember, that's very important. Now, ways to develop the teamwork and interpersonal skills would be collaborate with others, handle difficult conversations in person with respect. Try and see that. Join a student organization or team on campus where you can help achieve the common goal. If you start implementing this and working together, you automatically can have a reflection on your own team working skills or interpersonal skills. Then you could reflect on the questions like, when do you feel most comfortable contributing your thoughts and ideas to a group or a team? When do you need to speak up? When do you need to hold back? Reflect upon it when you are working with the teams. Also ask the question like, how do you feel about the conflict? How do you typically handle differences of opinions or conflicts? What could you do differently in the future to manage the conflict more effectively? Think upon it. Identify a situation and think upon it. The third interesting question that you could reflect upon is, what does collaboration mean to you? Why is collaborating with others very important? Who are people you like to collaborate with? And who should collaborate with more often? Practice with these questions and talk to yourself in order to work for the betterment. Remember, it's always the teamwork and the interpersonal skills that put you on the path of success. I also can work, but together we can be a one whole and success shared. Thank you very much for being a part of this video. Hope you had enjoyed it. Work in teams and be happy. Bye for now.